Tiina, thank you so much for taking time out and joining us today from FiBAN.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Let's start the session with a quick introduction on your side. Tell us about your background. How did you become interested in being the part of startup world and angel investment world? And then we go into FiBAN.
All right, thank you. I've been now in this position for less than 1 year. I started in the beginning of May 2023, and now I honeymoon period in FiBAN is over, and I'm still
Okay.
excited. Before FiBAN, I was 5 years startup entrepreneur. The company is called Priceff. It's offering autodynamic pricing SaaS
Okay.
service, and it's still existing there. And I'm one of the shareholders, happy shareholders, and hoping someday to get a good exit from there. And actually, that was when I joined FiBAN. I was thinking that I've been looking for funding through FiBAN. I didn't succeed. I was pitching in FiBAN's flagship event, Pitch Finland, but still I managed to get a lot of angel investors for that company. So I know I know this world from startups perspective. So in that sense, it was quite easy to join. So I know how this world looks like and how it functions. So it was easy and nice to join. And but before Priceff, I have been working mostly in sales and the sales director or CEO position in different industries. And I started my working career in Finnish Defense Forces, and I worked there for almost 8 years. So I was never supposed to become any business director or business leader or whatever. uh, I had different kind of targets that day, and that's why I joined the Finnish Defense Forces. I wanted to be there and work there. But then 2005, I noticed that now I have got everything what I wanted from that organization, and now I'm a happy reservist in Finnish Armed Forces still, even though I'm middle-aged woman.
Very interesting. Like, wow, what an interesting background. So you are an ex-entrepreneur, already retaining your shares in the companies that you built. In sales, you have worked, and then in defense side as well. So that's a very interesting background. And now in angel investment, what I found very interesting when you started talking about your journey through FiBAN as an entrepreneur, it is so that is kind of, we are always in startup space looking for validation and trust. So you eventually came to an organization where you were involved in a very different way as a startup. You're going through the network, and it happens sometimes to us as well when we are doing these pitching panels. That sometimes one of the mentors or investors says, "Well, I actually came to connect a few years ago as an entrepreneur. That's where my journey started."
Yes.
So it's such a strong validation point. But great to learn about your background, Tina. Let's start with FiBAN. If you can give us an, how would you say, an overall overarching kind of a view of what is FiBAN's mission and how do you contribute to the Finnish startup or angel investment landscape?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that our mission is to connect startups and investors, and of course, inspire private investments in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we renewed our strategy last autumn, and I would say that our vision for the next couple of years will be divided into the different segment, I would say.
Okay.
That we would like FiBAN to be Finland's most attractive co-investor network and angel training association as well. And another thing what we want to be or reach is that we want FiBAN to be the most well-known research-based angel investment expert in Finland. And the third one is that, of course, we want to be credible and reliable funding channel for startups. Last year, around 700, FiBAN received around 700 applications from startups.
Okay.
And in the coming years, we want to increase the number of startup applications so that our angel investors or our members get better deal flow through us.
Awesome, awesome. So I think it's great that you kind of clarified those three pillars. And in form of, you mentioned something very interesting because that's something I was actually discussing with my team yesterday. We were trying to figure out a way of creating 2024 in each sector. We have some new ideas on creating training modules for, because there's a lot of the big reality. If we kind of switch back from our ecosystems and go back, something which is happening at a very large scale in the tech sector is that people are being let go, or people are not finding meaning in their jobs in big tech and all these people are going back, and they have money and they want to start ventures. And one of the fastest way to start a venture is to bring your competence and some money and put it on an uh, already engaged team which is already doing something. So there's going to
Yes.
be a huge explosion in this space of angel investment and micro VCs creation in coming years.
Yes.
So in terms
Very
of
good
training, I'm
point.
very curious to understand how what's the FIBAN mission in terms of, or how do you see training? What kind of training is relevant, you think, for developing the next generation of angels?
I would say that I could start it so that if I would have known everything what I know now about
Mm-hmm.
angel investing and startup investing overall,
Mm-hmm.
I would miss quite many mistakes what I've done so
Okay.
far. So that's why it's very important to train yourself as
Mm-hmm.
an angel investor. So there are a lot of like basics. We are
Mm-hmm.
organizing, for example, FiBAN academies.
Okay.
This is something education module what we
Mm-hmm.
are offering for our members. Then of course onboarding is very important. We are offering onboarding program, so everyone who is joining FiBAN as a member, we are offering I would say basics, that what it is and how to use our tools and how to get all the best out of FiBAN's membership. And during these onboarding sessions,
Mm-hmm.
you get to know other angel investors who are in the beginning of their angel investment journey. So you
Mm-hmm.
can get to know already people, and those might be your first co-investors in the future. But it's important as well for a little more senior angel investors that, for example, how to lead uh, rounds, how to lead syndications and all that kind of stuff as well. So we will organize those kind of education models as well in the future. And then we are joining quite many European Union programs for angel investors, so that how to make, for example, cross-border investments, because
Mm-hmm.
that's as well important, that you don't, if you are focusing only to Sweden or
Exactly.
Finland, then you might miss very good investment opportunities. So it's good to take a look little some other countries as well, not only focusing into Sweden, even though I know that Sweden is a very good country and there are a lot of different interesting startups as well.
And we were trying to speak Swedish, just for the audience who are here. So, like, just before the talk, Tina and I were learning Swedish, like, kind of trying to speak Swedish a little bit. Så somewhere in the talk, vi kan prata svenska för en lite grann during
Kanske,
the talk.
ja.
But awesome. I find a lot of relevance, and I think it's so great to have this talk today and to learn your side of angel investment and network building, Tina, because the reason is we are doing almost similar work here in Sweden, and we should be building stronger bridges and kind of seeing how Connect and FiBAN can work together. You mentioned, for example, when I asked you the previous question about academy and onboarding, that's exactly on our plans right now. So the Connect talk, for example, that we are doing today, imagine 6 months later, we'll have huge repository of 30 talks which are knowledge intensive about different ecosystems, and this will be part of our academy that we will have digitally accessible for all the net. So 6 months from now, people will be able to access all this information.
Mm.
So I think this could be something scalable from our side. You also mentioned something very interesting, that you are thinking of angel investment at 2 3 levels, like for example first time angels, then syndications, and then how do you build a strong angel portfolio. So I think that is also a good way of structuring the wood building or the education material for the
Yes.
angels.
And one
um,
thing that what we have super, we call them super angels as well, who
okay,
are
okay.
doing a lot of
Hmm.
investments per year. And we are using those super angels as well. They are helping us to train people who are starting their journey. So that group is very important as well for us, and I suppose for everyone. So not only for startups, but for organizations like that, like we are.
And I love it. We are thinking so much alike. Yesterday, I talked about the session, that when we were creating this session about how to create the next generation of food building from our side, we were doing this ICP, like ideal customer profiling, and super angels is
Mhm.
one of the words we wrote here as well. So I
Yeah,
think it's really good to kind of, which means that the roots of what we are building is common. Like we are building something in a similar sense or spirit. Let's take one more point. When you started discussing, you said that you try to connect investors and startups. So matchmaking, I suppose, would be a key activity in FiBAN's ecosystem. How do you make it possible? How do you operate? Do you do physical events, virtual events? What's your way of enabling the different sides of FiBAN to meet together and benefit each other?
mm. Well, I would say that first, networking is among the most important reason to join
Hmm.
FiBAN. It's and it's quite interesting. It's not investment opportunities; it's the network. And we made a survey uh, last fall, and more than 250 our members answered that one. And what our members will are expecting, they are expecting even more networking opportunities. So this year we will organize more networking opportunities, surprise, like theme lunch. Theme lunches, we are organizing Angel Gala dinner event. We will organize Valentine's Day drinks, etc., etc. So it's essential to hear what your members are looking for or what they want and offer that. It's the same as in a startup. You should know what your customers want
Okay.
or need and offer that. Then we, as I mentioned, that we are organizing those onboarding events for our
Hmm.
members.
Hmm.
And what we want to do in the future even more, that we want to promote co-investing opportunities.
Okay.
And then what we want to do is create instruction and templates for syndication as well.
Okay.
And we are considering introducing a syndication tool, what
Hmm.
we do not have right now, but for our members, so that they could use that together and to make it even easier to invest. And then what we want to do, we are using, for example, Facebook. We have FiBAN Facebook group, but I don't know, that's not that efficient anymore. So now we are examining the need for a communication channel for our members. So these are the things what we have been thinking that would help our members to networking even better.
I think that's really good. Absolutely. a spot on point on Facebook. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, who are building startups and building their communities. Facebook groups used to be a great thing.
Mm.
Not so more anymore because I think that's like how the technology life cycle for products also works. Like sometimes, yeah. So in my other networks that I have run, we have used Discord, for example. Very successful for 2 3 years
Mhm.
when COVID was happening, but then everybody kind of migrated away from Discord and even Slack, because Slack then for large scale networking, yeah, doesn't work. The threats become too much for people to
Yes.
handle. So more recently what I've seen, and that's just something because we could brainstorm a little bit, like how should Connect creates its community and FiBAN. I have seen some of the startup communities working very well on WhatsApp. Now, when I arrived in Sweden, I arrived here like 7 8 years ago. I have not seen WhatsApp to be very popular, but for these international startup communities, there are some very strong entrepreneurship groups on WhatsApp. Although
Mm.
I'm not an active WhatsApp user, so maybe I'm not relevant. So I think it's really important that we could find a good tool which is easily communicable for members without overloading their senses.
Yes. And it's as well because FiBAN, for example, we have around 20 different tools or apps or features or
Mhm.
whatever. We have those a lot. So it's that you have different kind of what you are using, and it's all sometimes it's like I'm asking that, okay, we have around 20 what we are more or less using. Is there something that we could just forget, just not to
Mhm.
add always the new one? You should just get rid of something what you are not using or which are not that efficient. So you should have a courage to stop using some of those if those are not that good for your purposes.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we as humans tend to forget, and we kind of put things under the carpet. So what that typically happens, generally as a consumer of digital, I use a lot of digital services. So like on this weekend, I found that had been automatically charged for a service that I subscribed 3 years ago, and it had just been happening. Whenever they charged for the service, it went to a spam folder, so I never knew if I was being charged. So we kind of oversubscribe and then over engage ourselves, and then we kind of so that's human psychology. We are seeing some questions coming up on the community here. So the first question is so Wilhelm has a question. Hi, Wilhelm from homer.company.co here. Can we as Swedish founders get the opportunity to present to your network, and how? So that,
Yes.
yes, okay.
So you can apply through our website. It's fiban.org, and then there is a startups and apply for funding. So very forward and easy. And there is instructions what you should have. So yeah, very easy. And as discussed with Naimul before we
Mm.
started this one, so eftersom vi har ganska många svenskspråkiga i Finland, ungefär 4-5% om finska är svenskspråkig, så det är lättare för dem att förstå även på svenska. So it's much easier because there are a lot of people, Swedish speaking people in Finland, so they speak mother language is Finnish. So if the if the angel investor happens to be Swedish speaking, you can even, speak Swedish with them. But our official language is English, so all our events are organized in English. All the pitch events, all the material are in English. So that's why you don't need to speak Finnish or to get any funding from Finland.
Awesome. I think that's something we have done in Connect East as well, with the change of the year or early last year, because we were because when startups are coming to us, they are also speaking to VCs. They're also speaking to VCs outside, and so we have kind of major structural change of all processes in English. Our investment readiness program was already in English, so it has become super easy because then there is one language in which everything has started happening, and so great point over there, Willem. I've also put the direct link which. Tina was mentioning in the chat here. Let's take one or two other questions, and I like the flag, Willem. Thank you in the chat. So Christian has a problem, has a question here. Let's see. Yeah, here. I'm wondering how you are building relations to the researcher and the academy.
We actually are doing it. We have a different kind of partners. We have business partners, for example, Microsoft, Nordea, that kind of big partners. Then we have lawyer companies, but then we have ecosystem partners like University of Helsinki. They have their own incubator program. And then we do cooperation with Aalto University. So that is something that we are collaborating with them, that when, for example, the University of Helsinki, they are organizing pitch event, or they are having those, they are training those startups. So usually they invite us as well there, and then we help them to train those startups for the pitch events, for example, and that kind of stuff. So we are doing collaboration with them. And then what comes to med tech companies, so we have a lot of doctors in our network, and they are interested in investing, for example, med tech companies. And we have been collaborating with the Association of Doctors in Finland. So because most of those startup companies are very, I would say, research-based companies. So this is something what we are trying to do. Hopefully I managed to be enough clear that you understood what I meant.
No, I think thank you so much for clarifying. And just from the Connect side as well, we work closely with universities as well. That's a great way for us to spot the from two areas. One is we're able to get a lot of competent support from them, so they can come to our pitch panels, advisory panels, and coach startups. People who are working on the deep tech side, research side, sometimes also on the business development side. Because universities in the last 15, 20 years, they have built a lot of entrepreneurship centers and all. So one can get really good support. And at the same times, they really have good, cool cases of startups which can come directly to our network, get investor readiness training, and move forward. And Tina, you mentioned also that you have around a deal flow of around 700 startups that are coming. So, what does a typical process look like? Is it that a startup, so from the website onward, what happens? When they come to you, do you run some sort of a program with them? Do you coach them in some other way? And then how does the investment eventually happen for them through their network?
Well, first of all, when the startup leave the application for us, then our deal flow manager selects the potential startups for screening board. But before, we have very good deal flow manager. He started in the beginning of August, actually, and he gives feedback to everyone. And if the startup is enough mature to send an application, then he gives feedback. But if not, then he gives feedback as well that, okay, now you should improve your pitch deck, for example, because it's better for our screening board to go through your application if there is everything what is needed there. And the screening board consists of our members. And the best startups can pitch in the Pitch Finland event. for business angels, and those events we organize around 8 to 10 BITS Finland events annually. And typically around 8 to 120 angel investors attend to these events. And after the events, investors and startups start negotiations.
Okay.
And the typical startup valuation is around or is between 1.5 to 3 million euros. And our angels are expecting that the startup has some attraction, some revenue or customers. And the raised money is from, I would say, 100,000 euros to 500,000 euros. But this varies quite a lot. But this is, I would say, typical case. The average ticket size from our angel is around 20,000 euros, but that varies as well a lot. There are super angels who are ready to put much more, but usually we recommend that you shouldn't, if you allow very small ticket, for example, 1,000 or 2,000 euros, it's not good for your I'm missing the word.
Cap table, yeah.
Cap table.
Yeah.
So that's why startups should really think that what is the minimum ticket size.
Well, I think that's really interesting, and I think again I find a lot of similarities because when I was running the presentation initially, although it was in Swedish crowns, so our sweet spot is also 1 million SEK to 5 million SEK, which is very close to the 100 million to the 100,000 euros to 500,000 euros that you mentioned. I think something that we have been thinking about in Connect, and I'll really like to discuss this with you on the FiBAN side, because we are right now thinking of bringing even really early stage, because this ticket size that we are mentioning, there are many funds which have the capacity to go from the venture capital side. So we are thinking of kind of building strong collaborations here with the VC networks. Are you doing anything on the VC side, or is it purely angel investors in your network in FiBAN?
Yes, we do cooperate with some early stage VCs as well, so they can attend our events. They can attend they have access to our Dealum, which is the program where all the applications are. So that's a very important thing, that we have those, I would say, angel friendly VCs around us. And we are attending now a EU funded project, what it's called Connect to Scale. And one aim for that program is to increase collaboration with early stage VC funds and angel investors. So that program it started last autumn, and it will continue a couple of years.
Would love to learn more about that. Maybe we can do a similar stuff here in Sweden counterpart, and kind of building that bridge between the angel investors and the VC community, so that most of this collaboration can already happen within the Connect network. So I think that's something I'll reach out to you afterwards. But
and actually that's important, because you shouldn't be so jealous if some VC takes very good, starting a promising startup and it starts funding it. It's not, it's startups win, so that everybody wins. It's not nobody loses. Of course, some angel investors might think that, now they took our very promising startup and started to funding it, but this is somehow this is how capitalism works. So that if you're fast enough, then
No, but this is very interesting that you mentioned. And just before this talk, I closed a discussion. We have a very strong mentor and investor in our network. He has been on one of our couple of our events very recently as well. Johan Carlson. I was just having a talk with him, trying to understand going forward how do we build our investment community. in Connect and grow it. And one of the point that he mentioned was that sometimes the startups which are coming to our network in Connect, they have very huge expectations in terms of valuation. So their valuations are here and angels are here. And then we started
Yes.
discussing why that could be. And one of the reasons, since I run that accelerator as well, when accelerators are training their startups, they're training them for VCs, because
Yes.
accelerators don't know angel networks that well, because angels are working independent in silos, or we try to collaborate with them through networks like FiBAN, through Connect in Sweden. But the general startup advice that is coming from accelerators is coaching. The coaching is going to preparing them for venture capital, and venture capital is high valuation based. So I don't know. So somewhere like we need to figure out how the startup valuations are more realistic going forward, so that they can have a better connect with the angel community.
Yes, because if the valuation is too high,
Hmm.
then at least our angels, they think that, okay, we are not ready to invest in because the
Exactly.
valuation is too high. And then you don't get any angel funding
Hmm.
if you think, and those valuation, those might be sometimes too unrealistic, so that you don't have anything that why the valuation is that high. And actually, valuation is something that when we asked last autumn from
Hmm.
our angel investors, or we did a member survey, that what topic they would like to learn more. And the valuation was actually the second most popular topic, that they
Hmm.
would like to get more training, that how to evaluate the valuation. And this is something that we will focus on this year, that
Okay.
we will organize an event, that valuation, how you evaluate it, because it's sometimes it's very subjective. You think that
Hmm.
as a startup, ex-startup uh, entrepreneur, I know that the valuation, of course, you think that the valuation of our company is very, very high because
Hmm.
of
Hmm. Hmm.
it's so good and it's so
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But then when you think about it from angel investors' perspective, you think that, okay, I've seen similar, yeah. So
Awesome.
very
Awesome.
important topic.
Very good. I'm actually, let's turn to chat for a minute. I think before turning to chat, I think before the talk we were discussing that somehow Connect and FiBAN will kind of collaborate more closely. I think maybe if you are going to be building something on valuation side, and we are also thinking, let's try to build something. Maybe we can co-build something very quickly, which is usable on both sides of the border. Like, I think the main key over here is to how do you create a valuation sweet spot, so that startups still think this is relevant for them, and angels still think they can invest in startups up to a limit. So it's not like too far away, which kind of becomes a deal breaker. Like startup is talking 50 million and they're talking 15 million, and then nothing happens. So this gray space. So happy. I'm just writing here. We'll do a reach out afterwards on a valuation kind of a discussion. But let's turn to chat. We have a comment here. So, Maria, hi Tina, good to hear your talk. I'm representing Well Street, an early stage VC in Sweden. Just spoke with your colleague last week. We would love to collaborate with you more. We can support on educational topics such as valuation. Well, great. Sweet spot is already. Thank you, Maria, for. I think Connect Well Street and FiBAN. We should work together on creating something really awesome on the valuation side. Maria, thank you for the note. I'll. This is good. So you guys know Well Street? They're pretty much well known in Sweden. I'm actually doing
No.
a startup grind talk with them on 30th January here. But happy to make an introduction here. Let's see. More questions are coming in. So Per is from Bordio. Yes. Hi Per, great to see you here. And Bordio you mentioned was is originally a Finnish company. Okay, let's take your question. Do you have like panel discussions, meetings with experienced participants, 1 to 2 hours to advise specific startups, and or you recommend external advisors? So do you have panel discussions, or do you pair panels and experts with startups at FiBAN?
Actually, that we don't know. We don't do that, not that
Okay.
much. And what we started to do in the last autumn is that we are organizing open hours for startups. Then they can, if they are in Finland and Helsinki based, they can come every Tuesday morning. We are here for them. We are offering a cup of coffee, and they can ask whatever
Okay.
they want. And we have been thinking that maybe we should organize that online as well, so that our experts can, give us some advice or just answer what is on the startup's mind.
Okay. Okay. Got it. We have another question coming from Lee. You mentioned subjects that the entrepreneurs want to know more about, and valuation was the second most popular. What was the most popular area?
Now I need to think about it. It was EGG. That's something that what comes to sustainability and
ESG.
all
Okay.
ESG, yeah.
Okay.
So that's something that they are willing to invest in impact companies, but they want to learn more because it's very, very wide area. So what's in it, and how does that affect, and etc. etc. So that's something what they would like to learn more. And actually, third one was how to evaluate teams. And this is something what is interesting for me as well, that everybody talks that how important the teams are, that we are investing in teams. So when you ask from angel investors or in VCs as well, that how do you evaluate? Well, then it's like, it's, no any tests or no, not necessarily structured evaluation, whatever path. And that's something that should be focused more. That it's not only that, okay, I think that she or he, but he's very, smart guy or smart girl or woman. And yeah, I like her. That's why I'm investing in her. Of course, you need to like, well, it's good that if you get in very well with startups whom you are invested in, you don't need to love them, but still it would be nice that, or good that you just get along with them.
Yeah.
Because it's even more important that, because if you, and as a startup entrepreneur, if you don't like your investors, it's very difficult to, to think that we need to go through next funding round if you don't like that person at all. So don't ask only for money. You need to like. It's like a marriage. If
Exactly.
you are married with some guy or you don't like, with only because of money, it's like, well, at least I wouldn't like it that way.
Very good point.
And it's a similar thing that you need to cooperate with your investors.
Exactly. We all need to be sailing in the same direction. So you cannot have a startup which is going that way, investors going that way, and then advisory board going another way. So I think everything needs to. That's the best. How would you say, direction to follow? We have a question from Erica. Let's see. What kind of feedback are you getting from angels? Anything they would like to see more? What they love and what they don't like in startups?
Well, at least what they would like to. Well, there are a lot of things what they would like to know more, but at least there are some things what in good pitch deck, and I suppose many knows them already, that what good pitch deck should include. But for example, I could point out some go-to-market strategy. There should be the solution, and the solution should be, that way put that everybody understands it. And metrics and financial is important as well, because in DD phase, you will need those metrics anyway.
Okay.
And one important thing is as well terms of the round, how the cap table looks like, and as I mentioned before, pre-man evaluation and all that kind of. And one thing is as well IPR issues as well, because it's very important, and who has the intellectual property rights. And this is something that we have been discussing with one of our partner, Colster, who is expert in this field, is that many startups, they forget it because they are go so fast forward, and they forget that, okay, do we have these, who has the intellectual property rights? And then they might even forget that who owns, for example, website, or all very, very early stage mistakes companies can make. And when it comes to that you are looking for funding, it might be that you don't get funding because your property rights are not in good shape.
Very good points over there. Tiina, what is the current, how would you say, sentiment on the investment side? We are all seeing that venture capital, like 2021 was an oddity, it was a blip on the radar, and then there's been market correction, there's been a lot of talk about. So how do you see your investor network is reacting to the general market condition of funding? Yeah, so let's take some discussion over there.
Yeah, we will get the fresh data from 2023 next month, when but when we served our members after summer. So we know better how much they have been investing in 2023, well, in the beginning of March. So, but when we asked our members that how much are they willing to invest in general to startups in the near future and in this year, so 60% of our members expected to double their invest to startup at least. And 29% of our members have already invested at least 500,000 euros in startups. And 45% plan to invest at least 500 euros into startups. So at least among our members, there is still willingness to invest, and that's very positive as well. Of course, there need to be good startups to invest, but at least we haven't noticed yet that. But I don't know. I will be wiser after a couple of months when that big survey the result will be ready. But still, our angels are investing their own money. So, and mostly they are capable of investing. So, in that sense, if you are VC and you have that some kind of fund regulations where to invest, but angel investors, they are investing their own money, and they can decide that, okay, this is something this looks good, and yeah, I will invest.
I think excellent point over there, and I work a lot with the startup ecosystem on the other side, like a lot of networks. So if we just take the case of accelerators, so accelerators are still pumping out startups at the volume they are. So Norken will have its 20 startups. Antler is expanding globally. Founder Institute is expanding globally. So the accelerator capacity of bringing out great ideas, it is increasing over time. So it will continue to increase, which means that there will be good cases coming out. Of course, when this crisis hit the financial sector or the investment sector, initially it was very late stage, then it was late stage, and then almost Series A. We see a little bit some, like, I would say the correction that I see more now is more of a way investors are looking at the startups. Like up to 3 years ago, when this was at the peak, um, you could get away with investment on what you are presenting with very little questioning. So for startups, it was much easier. So I think
Yes.
what has really changed in my thinking for early stage startups is that you are grilled more by the investors, because you need to think a little bit on the real short term. So you cannot say we'll be a 1 million user app in 3 years. The investors are saying, okay, let's talk about the first 1,000 and 10,000. What's your plan? And
Yes. And the valuation
yeah.
levels has decreased as well. So some years ago, the valuations were very high, but now investors are much more careful with valuations.
Okay, great. Tiina, this has been such an interesting discussion from so many different angles. As I mentioned, we have a summit happening on 14th March. We would love to have FiBAN with us, and we'll try to do a spotlight on the Finnish market and the ecosystem. So we'd love to re-collaborate over there on some of the areas I've written out here in terms of that European. Like you were talking about the angels and the VCs, there's a
Yeah,
project
Connect to Scale project.
Connect to Scale, and some other areas we talked about also were. We'll try to connect you with whoever is in our network, who are relevant to FiBAN, and we can do it both ways. But this is really good start to a year and to a potential collaboration going forward. Really happy that we had this talk today.
Yeah, great. And one of our main target is to get more members as well. So if there is somebody in the audience who is willing to join FiBAN as a member, so please don't hesitate to contact me, because there is the need for only 6% of our members are from abroad.
Okay.
We would love to see more active Swedish business angels in our network.
That's a great way, because if you don't measure something, you don't know. I don't have a number corresponding to Connect East right now. How many are for? So our first step is to kind of really figure out how many are foreign investor network or members in our network. But
Yeah.
Great having this talk. I've just put your LinkedIn over here. So
Yes.
anybody who wants to reach out directly to Tiina, I'll recopy our LinkedIn profiles here. So happy to have a discussion on my side on Connect, on Tiina's side on FiBAN. Tiina, thank you so much for today. And we are closing this.
All right. Tack så mycket.
Tack så
And
mycket.
have a nice, great winter day.
Yes, it's getting colder by the day. I don't know what's happening to Stockholm. I hope there is some warmth coming in the next few days. But let's see. Thank you.
We will enjoy this one.
Okay, take care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
tack. Hej hej.